This is not merely betrayal. This is theft. Emotional, financial, and spiritual. Kody Brown's words boomed in the courtroom like a clap of thunder. They cut through the silence like a hot knife through butter, every syllable dripping with anger and incredulity. Tension packed the air like dynamite ready to detonate. His finger jabbed across the courtroom, pointing straight at the woman who had once claimed his unshakable devotion. Robyn Brown. Gasps filled the courtroom. The crowd, a mix of press, family, and interested bystanders, hunched forward in collective anticipation. Reporters grasped their notebooks. Cameras snapped wildly. No longer a forum for justice. The courtroom was now a field of betrayal, and a shot had just been fired. Robyn sat motionless, her frame tense. Her normally warm and wide eyes were filled with confusion and terror. She parted her lips, but she couldn't speak. Her signature soft look was nowhere to be seen, replaced by a shaken, exposed, and uncertain woman. This wasn't the Robyn that had been featured on TLC's Sister Wives, the soft peacemaker, the one that Kody constantly stood up for. This was a different person. A woman on trial, a woman accused by the one man who once sacrificed everything for her. For years, Kody started, pacing deliberately across the courtroom floor. I thought she was the glue that kept this family together. I thought she was fair, honest. I trusted her more than anyone. He turned sharply, his voice increasing. But what I found out destroyed every assumption I had. His lawyer put a file in his hand. Fat, creased, packed with printed-out emails, receipts, banking papers. Kody held it aloft like a weapon. She stole money that was supposed to go to all the wives, he growled. She funneled family money into hidden accounts. And she bought land in my name. My name. Behind everyone's back. The judge, a serious woman with years of experience, glared at them. This court will decide the facts of Mr. Brown's claims. If they are true, Mrs. Robyn Brown might face some severe repercussions, including fraud, misrepresentation of property, and unauthorized financial activity. Robyn's lips finally moved. Kody, please, don't, he cut in, without glancing at her. Don't you dare tell me you did this for us. You did this for you. The silence that ensued was oppressive. Behind Kody, the benches in the courtroom were occupied by recognizable faces. Christine sat as close to the aisle as possible, teeth gritted and fists clenched in her lap. Janelle was forward in her seat, eyes narrowed. Meri was tougher to interpret. Crossed arms, unreadable face, but body language radiating decades of unspoken anger. Each of the women had contributed to the Sister Wives' legacy. Each had suffered heartbreak, loss, and confusion as Kody incrementally came apart before a national audience. But today, something was different. Today, Kody was standing on their side. Today, he wasn't defending Robyn. He was revealing her. I want this court to know, Kody went on, now standing behind the plaintiff's desk. This isn't about a single decision. This is about a pattern. A pattern of manipulation, secrecy, and deception. He unfolded the folder and drew out a printed screenshot. Here's an email Robyn sent to a real estate agent. She used my legal name and signed off as me, without my permission. She purchased 2 lots of land in Flagstaff, one of which is outside the Coyote Pass area, in her name and my name. Nobody else knew. He lifted it high, his back to the courtroom. This was no accident. This was not neglect. It was a strategic maneuver. She craved control. Robyn peered down, her fingers trembling in her lap. Her lawyer mouthed something in her ear, but she did not move. She gazed rigidly ahead, her eyes wet with unshed tears. The judge peered over her glasses. Mrs. Brown, you will get your turn to reply. But presently, Mr. Brown, go on. Kody glanced to the rear of the courtroom, to his children in silence. Some of them could be seen by the public. Others were not visible. But the hurt was present, heavy and real. I was an idiot, Kody whispered. I allowed myself to be blinded by love. I walked out on Meri, Janelle, and Christine, because I thought Robyn was looking out for the family. I thought she was trying to do what was best for all of us. He looked back at the judge. But meanwhile, she was constructing something else. A future apart from us. A future where she called all the shots. He stopped. The courtroom held its breath. My name was used without my permission. Family savings were taken out without group consensus. Property bought without wife consent. That is not manipulation. That is fraud. Christine hid her mouth, clearly shaken. Janelle murmured something to her attorney. Even Meri appeared shaken by the sheer number of secrets Kody had been harboring for so long. The judge raised a hand. This matter is now not just about emotional betrayal. The filings made here indicate possible criminality involving forged signatures, financial misrepresentation, and the theft of community assets. Mrs. Brown, you will have to prepare a formal rejoinder. Robyn finally got to her feet, tottering a little in her heels. Her voice was raspy. Your Honor, I never intended to cause harm to anyone. I only wanted to protect what little remained of this family. Kody took a derisive laugh. You did not protect us. You fractured us. And now the truth is out. Cameras filmed every shot of the moment. Kody glaring down at the woman he once loved with all his heart. Robyn paralyzed under the weight of revelation. 3 wives looking on as the woman who had become Kody's favorite at last stood alone. The judge struck her gavel once. This court is in session. Evidence has been presented. The charges are serious. We will now hear from the rest of the family members and establish the scope of this betrayal, both financial and emotional. The room hummed as journalists scrambled to file reports. Viewers who tuned in from across the globe kept social media abuzz with hashtags such as #Robyn on trial and #Kody speaks truth. And when the judge declared a temporary recess, the reality hit home. For the first time in more than a decade of television family turmoil, Kody Brown wasn't the bad guy. He was the man who was pulling back the curtain. The truth was coming apart. And Robyn Brown, once guarded, shielded, and loved, was no longer the innocent. She was the accused. And her empire was breaking apart from within. The gavel of the judge came down once, hard, and the session was on. The whispers in the courtroom died down, and everyone turned back to the center stage again. Kody Brown versus Robyn Brown. This was no longer a family issue. This was an all-out courtroom battle that had riveted the whole country. The courtroom clerk stepped forward with a fat binder, carefully setting it down before the judge. Entered into evidence. The clerk replied. Our financial statements, email records, and digital transaction histories associated with joint and individual family accounts over the last 7 years. The judge, looking over her reading glasses, opened the binder and nodded. Go on. Kody's lawyer, a quick, no-nonsense woman in a navy blue business suit, rose and spoke to the court. What we're about to reveal, she began, is a detailed pattern of concealed financial activity committed by the defendant, Robyn Brown. These are not mere oversights or accounting errors. These are deliberate, concealed, and deceptive actions, carried out behind the backs of not only Mr. Brown, but the other wives and children involved. She approached the digital display in front of the jury box. With a tap, the screen came alive, showing a list of accounts, all with the same prefixes, but different owners. Leading the list was the Brown Family Trust. Following it were 3 others. RB Management, LLC, Coyote Legacy Holdings, Brown Reserve Fund. Personal Manas R. Brown. The room was in stunned silence, eyes fixed on the screen. More than $220,000. The lawyer clicked again. Was moved from the primary family trust into these side funds, all controlled by Robyn Brown alone. Another slide displayed withdrawals made each month. Some were tiny, $3,000, $4,500, but some were gigantic. $38,000 in one transaction, $52,000 in another. Robyn's face was white. She sat still, fingers gripping the lip of the defense table tightly. Kody rose once more, his tone softer this time, more tired than angry. I gave her everything. I let her pay the bills because I believed she was frugal. I never thought she was moving money in secret. Christine caught her breath out loud from the benches and back. Janelle shook her head in shock. Even Meri, who had been long unyielding, leaned forward from her chair, lips slightly parted. The attorney spoke on, her tone sharp. Not only did Robyn hide these accounts, but she also forged Kody Brown's name and signature to sign real estate deals and tax forms. Another click. The screen now featured a scan of a document bearing the signature Kody W. Brown, written in a shaky, unsteady hand. Expert handwriting analysis verifies, she said, that this signature does not match Kody Brown's authentic signature on legal documents. The judge jerked his head up. Forgery. Yes, Your Honor. The courtroom exploded. Journalists frantically typed. One onlooker had to be ushered out for yelling. She forged Kody's name. Kody approached again. This is the hardest part. She didn't just steal money. She became me on paper. She stole my identity and used it to redefine the future of the family without our awareness. His voice broke. She used me to ruin us. Robyn then stood up finally. Her lawyer put a hand on her elbow, but she brushed her away. She shook. I didn't do it. Kody gave me power of attorney years ago. When we were having a tough time in Vegas, he said, take care of the tough stuff. I don't anymore. I kept doing it. She turned to the judge. I never intended to lie to him. I thought I was being beneficial. Kody smiled scornfully. Helping? You laundered money into your name. You purchased assets that only you can access. And when I asked where the money was, you said, don't worry, it's safe. The lawyer intervened once more. Let's be specific. None of the other wives, Christine, Janelle, or Meri, were informed of these transactions. They weren't consulted, nor they were part of the ownership. Robyn was the only one that benefited from these secret accounts and possessions. She let it hang, which is to say that while the rest of the family was just getting by, while Meri was operating a small inn just to stay in business, while Janelle was draining her savings to feed her children, Robyn was amassing an empire behind their backs. Gasps again. On the screen, snapshots flashed of newly acquired land deeds, high-end house remodels, and even the inside of Robyn's closet, shelves of designer things far more lavish than the humble lifestyle the family professed on Sister Wives. Christine's jaw set. She told us she was scraping by. She said she worried about groceries. She lied to us, Janelle muttered under her breath, loud enough for microphones to pick up. The judge addressed Robyn. Did you or did you not reveal these accounts to the family members who were part of the original Brown family trust? Robyn faltered. No, but thank you, interjected the judge. Kody strode up to the evidence table, waving another document. This one's the worst of them all, he told her. She took out a small business loan, with both our names. The money, $90,000, was for a family business. But the business listed wasn't real. It was merely a shell to pass money through. And when I asked her where the loan statements were, she told me it was a bank error. The courtroom was shocked. She played me like a pawn, Kody whispered. She made me a fool. Robyn sat down hard. Her lawyer had no defense. She grasped a tissue in her hands, eyes bloodshot and full of remorse. But the harm was already done. The judge spoke to the court. On the basis of the evidence, this court finds probable cause for financial impropriety, identity abuse, and breach of marital faith. We shall go on to testimony of the other parties concerned. But no sooner was the recess able to be called when Meri got up. I want to say something, she said. The judge nodded. Go on. Meri slowly made her way to the stand. Her face was a combination of sadness and something more profound, a deep-seated anger that had burned for years. I remained, Meri whispered. I remained when no one else. I forgave the favoritism. I forgave Kody. I accepted being relegated because I believed Robyn was the glue. But now I realize she was the match. She stood up to confront Robyn. You didn't save us. You exploited us. And you used Kody's name to create something that never involved the rest of us. The courtroom hummed again. The story had changed forever. Robyn wasn't just a privileged wife anymore. She was the mastermind of division. As the judge pounded her gavel and called for a break, one thing was certain. It wasn't merely about money. It was about control. And Robyn Brown had borrowed more than her fair share. The courtroom doors groaned open as the judge called the court back into session. But the silence that ensued was denser than before, not only due to what had been disclosed, but due to who would next speak. The prosecution table rested assured, filled with piles of evidence against Robyn's treachery. Kody leaned forward, face set in a clenched jaw, eyes narrowed. He was not pacing anymore. He was not screaming. His rage had cooled into something harder, conviction. Robyn, however, seemed to be in pieces. Hair, previously impeccable courtroom demeanor had worn off. The smeared makeup, the fidgety looks, the way her hands shook. This wasn't peaceful. Robyn, the world believed they had known. This was somebody falling apart. And then it occurred. The judge's gavel came down. I now call Christine Brown to the stand. The room moved. Christine stood up from the second bench, smoothing out her blazer, and walked to the front. She walked by Kody, nodding to him briefly, and didn't even glance at Robyn. She took the oath and sat down as cameras closed in. A decade of waiting for this moment. The courtroom leaned forward. Christine readjusted the mic. I was married to Kody for 26 years. I gave birth to 6 of his kids. I raised everyone's kids, including Robyn's. I cooked. I cleaned. I made sacrifices. Because I was committed to the vision, to the family. She stopped speaking, her tone level but charged with emotion. But it wasn't a family. Not after Robyn came along. Robyn winced. Christine went on. Everything shifted. She told us she wanted sisterhood. But she wanted authority. All the big decisions, from where we lived to where money was allocated, all of a sudden ran through Robyn. She pulled out of her handbag a tiny crumpled piece of paper. This is a shopping list. One I wrote in 2021. That week Robyn received $1,400 for her household. I was allocated $300 for mine. The courtroom gasped. Kody dipped his head in embarrassment. Christine glanced up. And when I inquired why, I was informed Robyn has more needs. But that is false. She had greater access. She was secretly managing the purse strings, while we begged for table scraps. The prosecutor nodded. Did you know about the hidden accounts? Christine shook her head. Not until last month when Kody's lawyer showed me the files. And my stomach dropped, because it all made sense. She turned toward the judge. Your Honor, I'm not angry because she stole money. I'm angry because she stole our trust. She looked us in the eyes every day and lied. She watched us struggle, financially, emotionally, mentally, while she lived in comfort. The judge thanked her and dismissed her from the stand. Christine made her way back to her seat as she finally glanced at Robyn, not with hate, but with sharp, piercing disappointment. The type that says, you were a part of us, and you blew it all to hell. The judge looked down at the notes. Next, the court calls Janelle Brown. Janelle arose slowly, her demeanor crisp and professional. But in her eyes was a tempest. She stood up, locked eyes with the judge, and wasted no time. I was always the practical type, the numbers person. I did the budgets, coordinated our housing requirements, drove the RV when we didn't have an address. And in all of that I thought, we're doing this together. But we weren't. She displayed a printed screenshot from her phone. This was the last interview that Robyn and I had before I departed. I questioned her if she had access to the family emergency fund. She said no, that it was depleted. That is why I went out and obtained a personal loan to assist one of my sons with tuition. She turned to the prosecutor. It turns out, the fund was not depleted. It had been diverted into a side account. And Robyn spent $11,000 in an interior design shop the same week I was rejected for a loan. Gasps once more. Even Robyn's own attorney seemed flabbergasted. The judge leaned in. Mrs. Brown, are you accusing the defendant of deception regarding the fund being depleted? Janelle nodded. She stared me dead in the eye and told me there was nothing left. While she was shelling out money for custom drapes and velvet furniture, there was a buzz through the crowd. I exited the marriage not because I didn't love Kody, she continued, but because I knew there was no longer room for me. Robyn ruled everything, and she made sure the rest of us were small, poor, and invisible. Robyn lowered her head. Janelle descended. And then, like the ultimate surprise no one saw coming, the judge spoke. The court will now hear from Meri Brown. The whole courtroom came to a stop. Meri walked, slow, steady, graceful. Everyone had heard it all. The catfish scandal, the years of emotional estrangement, the solo hotel bed. As Robyn and Kody lived full-time in a shared house, she approached the stand with the burden of more than 3 decades heaped on her shoulders. She sat down, breathed deeply, and looked directly at Robyn. I was the first wife. I assisted Kody in creating this family out of nothing. I divided my husband, my home and my heart, because I believed we were creating something holy. But what I didn't realize was that I was assisting in creating a home in which I was never supposed to reside. The whole room was quiet. While Robyn arrived, she vowed to be a sister. She smiled. She served. She spoke softly. But on the backside, she was scheming. She found every crack in the foundation and slipped in quietly with poison. Robyn mumbled something, but Meri interrupted her without even acknowledging it. You made me go crazy, Meri told her. You told Kody in his ear. You dictated what he thought, what he believed. And when I cried for answers, I was ordered, stop being dramatic. Robyn means well. She addressed the judge. She didn't mean well. She intended to isolate. And she succeeded. Meri dug into her handbag and produced a faded photo. The first Brown family picture with all 4 wives and Kody beaming together in Lehi, Utah. This, she said, holding it up, was the last time we were really all together. And Robyn tore it apart, bit by bit. The judge nodded gravely. As Meri departed from the stand, she passed Robyn, pausing for only an instant. She said nothing, but the glance she received was unforgettable. You had it all, and you destroyed it. The judge addressed her once more. This court recognizes the uniform testimonies of emotional, financial, and familial betrayal by the 3 co-wives. Their testimonies are corroborated by the financial records and substantiate the claims of manipulation and misconduct by the defendant. Robyn Brown. Robyn slumped visibly. Her empire had just come crashing down, not by the hand of Kody alone, but by the women she believed would never testify against her. The sister wives had long been silenced, and now they used their voices to reclaim, not to annihilate. And as the judge adjourned until the next session, the truth became plain. This wasn't a courtroom. It was a reckoning. As the judge declared a short recess, tension within the courtroom struggled to subside. Reporters moved to the hallways, quietly speaking into microphones, jotting down quotes that would appear on headlines mere minutes from then. But within the courtroom, there was one man who was utterly stationary. Kody Brown. He didn't storm out of the courtroom. He didn't go talk to the press. He just sat there, slumped forward, hands trembling as they lay on his thighs. His pride-filled loud face was a stark white. The camera operators pulled in tight, recording something the world had never witnessed in more than a decade of TLC's Sister Wives. The implosion of the man who once stood at the center of it all, and then saw it all come apart. He wasn't screaming anymore. He was mourning. Christine, sitting across from him, saw it first. The way his chest rose and fell unsteadily. She elbowed Janelle. Janelle, too, looked. This wasn't the Kody they had grown to know. This wasn't the man who growled orders or gaslit feelings. This was a man shattering, and not quietly. Kody wiped his face, and suddenly leapt up and strode towards the hallway. Cameras followed. Some reporters attempted to get closer, but his attorney gestured them away. He spotted a tiny bench in a secluded corridor, far from the theatrics of the courtroom. And for a long haunting instant, Kody Brown wept. Not great, gasping sobs, not crocodile tears for sympathy, but raw, gut-wrenching sorrow. A courtroom officer walked by and hesitated. Sir, are you okay? No, Kody whispered. I don't think I've ever been okay for long. The officer nodded respectfully and continued on. Meanwhile, in the courtroom, things had changed. The authority had shifted away from the legal briefs and evidence charts. It had come to rest on the emotional impact of the years. Sacrifices that had spanned decades. A family that had marketed the aura of togetherness, now broken on public viewing. And now, the man who had called on 4 women to be loyal to him, the man who had acted as husband, father, and leader, stood by himself in the hallway, shattered by the truth he had attempted to deny for so long. Several minutes later, as recess ended, Kody stood back up in the courtroom, not with the flame of earlier, but with the burden of contemplation etched across his face. The judge scrutinized him. Mr. Brown, would you like to make a personal statement prior to our proceeding? Kody nodded. He went over to the witness stand. For the first time in this case, not as the accuser, not as the showman, but as something altogether different. a broken man struggling to confront the truth. He fiddled with the microphone and glanced about the room. His voice trembled as he started. I've made errors. I've made a whole lot of them. The room fell silent. I believed that if you were a leader, you kept control. I believed if you protected Robyn, you protected the family. But what I failed to understand was that I was only safeguarding her, not them, not all of them. He glanced across at Meri, Christine, and Janelle, each of the women motionless, staring at him.
Hey.
I ignored your voices. I disregarded your pain. I picked one woman's needs above three others. And I did it with arrogance, pride, and ignorance. I talked to myself about fairness. But I wasn't. He moved his head slowly. I handed Robyn the keys to our destiny. I entrusted her with the money because I assumed she was smart. I allowed her to represent the family because I assumed she cared most about what was best for people. I allowed her to set me apart from the others because I believed she was protecting me from argument. He swallowed down a gulp. But now I see, she wasn't saving me. She was controlling me. And I let her. Several people in the courtroom silently wept. Audience members of the show, fans of the family, even courthouse employees who'd grown up watching the Browns on TV. Kody brushed a tear away from his eye. When Christine broke up with me, I blamed her. When Janelle confronted me, I battled her. When Meri pleaded with me for a true relationship, I shut her off. And meanwhile, I clung to Robyn, convinced she was the only person who really got me. He stopped and closed his eyes briefly. But she didn't get me. She learned how to manipulate me. The audience gasped in shock. Robyn's lip trembled. Her lawyer touched her arm, but she was past comforting now. Her mask, the calm, misinterpreted wife, was lost. Kody went on. She forged my signature. She diverted funds away from the others. She lied to my face and said, we were broke when she was buying property in secret. And I believed her. God have mercy on me. I believed her. His voice cracked once more. I betrayed everyone in this room, not just by trusting the wrong person, but by not listening to the right ones. He addressed Christine directly. You tried to tell me. Christine's eyes brimmed. He moved to Janelle. You pleaded with me to reach deeper, and to Meri. You waited longer than anyone should ever have to wait, and I still didn't show up for you. Meri blinked hard, suppressing emotion. I don't anticipate forgiveness, Kody said. And I surely as hell don't deserve sympathy. But I need this court to understand. I didn't just show up here to win a case. I showed up here to finally confront the harm I've caused. To them, to my children, to myself. He took a deep breath. I let Robyn be the voice of the family. But she was only speaking for herself. He paused one last time, the courtroom hanging on his every word. This trial, it's not just about money. It's about truth. And for once, I'm done lying to myself. With that, Kody stepped down. His legs trembled slightly as he returned to his seat. The silence in the courtroom was overwhelming. The kind of silence that only comes after someone tells the truth they've buried for too long. The judge paused, visibly shaken. Then she looked to the defense. Mrs. Brown, do you have any response to Mr. Brown's words? But Robyn said nothing. She couldn't. She buried her face in her shaking hands. A woman who had been at the pinnacle for years, seeing everything around her crumble. The gallery murmured. Reporters peppered their keyboards. And the internet ignited once more. #Kody breaks. Down #sister wives. Trial #Robyn. Exposed. This wasn't a family feud anymore. It was a public reckoning. And Kody Brown, the man the world loved, hated, and questioned, had at last shattered, not through weakness, but through long overdue clarity. The judge thumped the gavel. Court will resume shortly for closing arguments. And as Kody remained silent, seated amidst the destruction of all that he once cherished, one thing was certain. He finally saw reality. And now, so did the world. The last session began again in silence. No murmurs, no adjusting of seats, no side comments whispered. Only silent tension, the kind that fills a room before a storm. The judge sat down slowly, her robe sweeping across the bench like the final curtain of a tragedy. But the play had not finished yet. The families remained quiet. Christine, Janelle, and Meri all sat facing forward, Kody sat next to his attorneys, vacant-eyed, arms folded. He resembled a man who had lost everything and was still holding out hope for salvaging one shard of his broken foundation. And then Robyn, alone, no comforting hand, no gentle smiles, no defense remaining. She slumped under the burden of her silence. Her attorney whispered one final time, but Robyn didn't respond. She just nodded, eyelids puffy, lips dry from being bitten the entire morning. Her fall from grace was complete. The judge raised her gavel halfway, then set it down delicately on the bench. She surveyed the courtroom around her with a weary eye, as if she had also grown old from the stress of what she had seen in the last few days. This court, she started slowly, has considered vast documentation and testimony of all the parties involved. Although this case has attracted national attention because of its high-profile players and its tie to the TLC show Sister Wives, this court is not here to cater to a television audience. We are here to determine the truth. She paused and inhaled deeply. And truth, she concluded, is typically hidden under loyalty, fear, and the false perception of love. But throughout this trial, truth has clawed its way to the surface.